to another episode of On the Spot Painting, and thank you for joining me again. I just want to welcome anybody who's new to subscribing to the channel. I just appreciate that. And if you could, you're just getting, maybe you're following me on Instagram or Facebook, and you would like to, you're interested, and if you feel like you just like to subscribe to the channel, I appreciate it a lot. I really do. It really brings encouragement to the process. And so if you haven't watched the other videos, I do encourage you to, because this is you kind of go back to how we, how I began this picture. This picture is a surreal world made out of metal, sort of, it's just kind of where I'm going with. And the nice thing about it is there isn't really any wrong or right way to do it, because I'm really creating something out of my head, so it's kind of a nice thing about it. So I'm going to just try to pull from some more shadows here. Pretty much I blend all my colors from, I don't typically use the tube colors except for maybe the purples, some of the blues, the turquoise, anything you can't really mix with together. It's kind of hard to mix like a magenta with red, yellow, and blue. You don't really get that. I tried, really, I really have tried, and you get something close, but there's something about magenta that just isn't that color range that is so it's so unique to that you'll have that kind of magenta color or that purple, and you can't really find that in mixing those three colors together. So sometimes you need that extra color. So I like to mix my own colors because I feel like it just gives me a little more room, and I don't feel as limited to the color that it's given, if that makes any sense. Okay, so as you know, I use a little bit of paper towels to try to dab my paints and stuff like that. So I'm trying to create this world, so we're kind of moving a little further on this way. That's what I want to kind of do. Sorry, it's been a little bit of a progression, and I've been kind of, the last few videos I've been more like talking about other stuff, and then you're just watching me paint. But it's a little less instructional than, not that I don't want to try to instruct you in what I do, it's just that I kind of like you're joining me on my progress, on my journey through this art. And some of the techniques I've done here that I'm applying to here, I actually applied to my robots that I was doing on the Angel Robotica site. And a lot of the robots I've done, I'm trying to create that metal or that look of metal with watercolor. It's a little challenging, but it's fun. It's a fun challenge. It's not a, I don't know, I guess you'd say, some people go, oh, that's so hard, and then you don't really want to do it, and then that's not really the way I feel about it. I don't feel like it's so hard that I just don't want to do it. It's almost like it's a hard that we want to try to do. There's a hard, we want to accomplish something, And if you are an artist, or you've done art, or if you haven't done art before, you'll come to understand that you'll enjoy that challenge. Whatever it is. I mean, I'm sure it applies to any other medium, any other art that you're creating, music or performing, or sculptures. You want to create something that hasn't been there before, and you want to challenge yourself. there's really no rhyme or reason why we want to do it as artists. It's just that we do. We're compelled to challenge ourselves. We're compelled to do something that is beyond maybe our knowledge or what we've done in the past. You don't want to keep. This is kind of a lame example, but you don't want to keep drawing circles, right? All you drew is circles, circles, circles. You're really proficient at drawing circles, but that's really not. Sorry, kind of trying to build this away, but I don't want to take away from what is here. But what I'm saying about, like, you just keep drawing circles, you're not drawing anything else, and I guess that's the thing. You don't want to be stuck doing one thing all the time. You want to venture out from what you're doing. So it's, and I have nothing against being good at something. That's good. I mean, if you, for instance, it's lighthouses. I've done for many years. Can't remember exactly how many years I've done it, but probably at least 15 years. I've done these little lighthouses, and I've made them into bookmarks and stuff like that. And I've gotten and they're pretty much out of my head. They're not. I haven't taken from any photograph. I may have got inspired by photographs, but I haven't really. Unless somebody is giving me a picture to work from, then I'm going to do that. But otherwise, they're all out of my head. But I've done so many lighthouses, and actually there's a couple videos of mine that I've done here on my YouTube channel. You'll see some lighthouses that I've done. But I've done it so often that I've gotten good at it, I guess, or I have a knowledge of doing it. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing to keep doing something over and over again, and it's just that you want to branch out do other things. That's only natural because we want to do that. And I'll be the first to admit there's a lot of things I really don't know. There's a lot of things I really have not gotten really good at doing, but I want to do it. I want to learn. So there's something that you might actually have, that you just feel like, oh, I just don't know how to do that. I just need to learn how to do that. So, and then you apply yourself to do it in your own time. So, okay, so this is a little bit slow and go sometimes, this building up this world here that I'm trying to do. These are kind of what I'm doing, is bringing in a little bit of highlights. I pull in the darker colors to bring details to especially right here where let's say there's grooves in the metal, the ground, and that sort of brings the attention to the ground here. Let's see, let me go with a little bit, let's kind of let that part dry a little bit, and let's go a little more with the clouds. And like I said, this has really been, I mentioned in my past videos, there's been so many colors involved in this painting, and yeah, skies are kind of a challenge for me. I'm not some things I need to learn. I've watched videos about people doing a wash, and I haven't really. I tried it myself, trying to do a wash, trying to do a, and it's something that's really going to take time for me to do, and. They take the color in and they use a lot of wet on wet, and they put another color in, blend it, and I've seen how it's done, and I've really tried to do it, apply it, and it doesn't come out the way what I see that they do, and it's like, oh gosh, it's really frustrating. And before you know it, I overwork, especially blue. It's really easy to overwork blue on paper. So and that's one of those things that are challenging to me. But I do it this way. This is kind of my way of doing it, and there may be another way. Some other people have it, and that's fine. But this seems to be what works for me, so that's what I like to do. I don't really work wet. I do at times, but most of it is kind of dry, so I can kind of get the keep it dry, and I can kind of shape it when I'm working at it. I don't really work wet, super wet on a painting, so I have nothing against it either. So I think it's maybe something I'll try to do in the future, and I'm not really against anybody's style of doing some artwork. Right? I don't ever want to be the person to say, oh, it has to be done this way. No, it can be done the way you feel like you're comfortable doing it. And if you're able to create the artwork that you want to create out of it, then you're happy with it, and that's most important. I think if you're the artist, you got to be most importantly, you have to be happy with your work. You have to be satisfied. It's not a matter of pleasing everybody else in that regards, except for yourself. And it's a challenge. And you're gonna find yourself, because watercolors is very. I know when I first tried it, I really had a hard time at times. Very frustrated working with a paper. Just didn't quite. You have an idea what's in your mind, and you want to try to apply it to the watercolor paper, and it just did not turn out the way I wanted it to. And you'll find that out quite often with watercolors. Maybe you put a color in that or some reason that part of that paper is not working with you, or you're not. But look at it this way. I mean, a lot of times we're going into it with a certain idea. This is how it's going to look. But then if it changes, then you kind of go, wow, let's kind of roll with it. Let's kind of think, well, this isn't exactly what I was thinking going into this painting or drawing. But then you see how it's forming, and you're just really kind of happy with it. You're just jazzed. This is what happened, even though it wasn't exactly what my water bottle just kind of the air pressure in the water, I guess. I'm thinking of that. I better take a little water. Excuse me. Sometimes the air, plastic kind of makes noise. Anyway. Okay, so we're moving on. I mean, it really hasn't done. We haven't really done too much here. And like I said, I haven't really drawn out this. Like typically, you would probably, when you're doing a painting or drawing, you would probably draw out where you want everything first, and then draw it out, and then you kind of fill it in with the watercolor. And that's usually the case. I mean, if I'm working from a photograph, I'm not just going to go, oh, I'm just going to blindly go and do whatever I want to do. Not typically. A lot of times I've learned in the past to kind of, what's helped me with commission works and stuff is if you're doing a project, to kind of go do several paintings or practice pieces of what you're going to draw, and then when you actually do the final piece, it actually turns out a lot better. You sort of you made the mistakes during the practice paintings, and then when you come across and do the actual work, there was one I did, and it's my western town, and I was very amazed how it turned out, because I put preparation into it. I put exactly what the client wanted, the colors, I practiced the terrain. I practiced the textures and the buildings and learning the perspective and everything that really needed for the painting. And it just, when I actually do the painting, it just turned out so much better than I really thought it would ever would. And I was so, and that's the work you put into it, the practice you put into it. And before I really never did that, and I don't know what it was. Maybe pride or something, saying I could do it. I could, no. And sometimes we get that way as artists. We kind of say, well, I could do this. I don't really need to practice. I don't really need to, really need to, I'm just going to do it straight out. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's great if you can do that. But I was very frustrated at times when I've done that before, and I didn't really practice. So I'm not trying to criticize if anybody does that. Just if you can do that, that's awesome. But I find for myself it was so much easier when I put a little practice into it, because I knew where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And so basically I've been doing that since, if I'm taking on a work or a project, or somebody wants something done, that's what I do. Unless it's one of my lighthouses, or something I just know what to do, it's something very easier, not say easy, because there's always a challenge to artwork. So, alright, what I'm doing here, I'd like to add a little bit of the lines, sort of give it, see, I don't want to lose the light in here. I want to keep it still light, because I really like this part being light here, because it's sort of like where the light is coming from. It's kind of like coming from this way, and then the shadows are this way. So that's where I don't want to, you don't want to keep overworking a certain area, and I really have been, guilty of done that. I don't want to call it guilty. I just say I've made I made the mistake to doing that, I guess. And like I said before, when you're drawing something like this, there isn't really any right or wrong way of doing it, because this is really if this is what you want to do, and this is the way it turns out, then if it's never been done before, then it's not really any mistakes. There's not really any, oh, this is wrong, or this isn't not right. This is what you wanted, and that's the art. That's the way art is. You created that to exactly what you wanted to make. For instance, music songs. Why did that artist make it that way? Why did that musician make it that way? Why does it sound like that? Well, that's the way they wanted it to sound, and maybe not everybody likes that. But not everybody likes every music. So that's, if you happen to be a fan of that particular music, and there's nothing wrong with it. Some people don't like certain songs, but it doesn't mean that is wrong. Does it mean that music is wrong, or that, no, it just means that particular person listening to it really doesn't interest them. It's not that not that they hate it, and sometimes they might, but I think it's not their cup of tea, more or less. Okay, so I'm kind of building this up again. This is a landscape, but it's surreal. It's kind of not really realistic. So, and thank you for watching all these videos that turned out to be kind of long. I don't really time it. You kind of watch me go, and I kind of yap away, and I don't know if yap's really a word. I keep talking, I guess. But I feel like I'm having a conversation with you, and I feel like you're joining me and I feel like it's a good way to, you know, communicate with other artists or anybody who's, you know, just likes to watch the process of art. You know, that's to be inspired. Maybe you know, it's weird. And this might even inspire you to do. You know, you might be a musician, and this might inspire you to do some. You watch this and you feel like, wow, I'm gonna go and do some guitar, you know, or I'm gonna go play piano, or I'm gonna go make, you know, whatever. And just because you watch something like this, and you know that really wasn't what I was doing, but you felt inspired to do that. And I kind of feel that way when I watch music videos or artists that I like, and I watch them perform, even though they're not doing, you know, art in that sense of, you know, painting or drawing, but they're still creating an art. They're creating, they did have to create that music. They did have to compose that music. They did have to, you know, that's okay. Pulled a little red. I don't want to go red. I want to kind of go yellow. See, part of this is where I have really no idea what direction I'm going to go in. That's the fun part. All I know is that I want to move it forward this way. And we'll see where it's going to go. All I know is this, the most important part of the painting would be these two images here. I may want to define this a little bit more, and when on the next video I probably will. Or if you happen to see a video that I maybe work on a little bit more, I'll explain, you know. I am going a little darker because I really want this to stand out. And I want to be careful how dark I go with this, because I don't want it to be too much. But I want it to be enough to where I feel like it's really standing out in the painting here. And when you do something like this, I encourage you to, probably the best thing to do is let it dry, because it's so easy to go over, and especially with this watercolor paper, it's a little different brand than I've used to the arches, or the other paper that I've used, the more expensive kind, and it doesn't react the same way that the other color, the more expensive paper would. So yeah, so you got to be a little bit careful how you're doing that, because see, like right here, I'm kind of messing around with this part, but then I'm actually starting to pull away the paint from there, so it's actually getting lighter, and that's where you can find, you got to be cautious of that. Well, this is pretty much, I'm going to say this video is done. I just want to thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate you, all everybody's viewing the videos, many subscribers again. If you feel like you really like this videos, I just encourage you that you could subscribe and put a comment or like on there, put likes on there, so that maybe more people would be able to watch it. And so thank you. So have a good night, and thank you for joining me on the spot painting.